Good morning, chat. How are we doing today? We feeling good? Gotta adjust this a little bit. What needs adjusted? There we go. Thank you. I appreciate it. I like this shirt. My skin looks like shit today, though. I do apologize. I don't know why it looks like shit, but it does. And I have breakfast on my hand, which is just great. I had one of those like brekkie, like they're overnight oats, but it's like overnight oats in like pudding, and they're delicious. I love them. So that was my breakfast for the day. Trying to get my camera situated correctly. How's everybody been doing? How's everybody been doing since last week? My views have gotten a little better on TikTok. Not much. But, you know, people are currently complaining about Gavin Newsom, and, you know, when you jump on the discourse. I am being pretty well punished for anything that's not discourse right now, though. Hanging in there, still sober, so it's a blessing. Oh, good. I'm really glad you're still sober. It's been rough for me lately, too, in terms of keeping the sobriety. Heather and I went to a live music show. It was like a blues festival a few days ago. And it was rough to not be able to drink at that. Like drinking and live music kind of feel like they go hand in hand a lot of the time. And that kind of like social drinking is really rough to avoid. We started up Quaker meetings again. So we had a pretty good meeting last night. We did the interfaith discussion group. The next one is going to be on the 14th. So yeah, we'd love to have more people involved. We had like our kind of like core group that kind of shows up for all of the interfaith discussion groups last night. We got some new people at Quaker meeting though, which was really cool. Like some people who saw the online event and were interested. So people are definitely coming out on that front. I'm wondering how big today's stream's gonna be. I've noticed that the earlier ones actually tend to do better, but I'll be so for real with you guys. Getting up that early has been a little bit rough. I haven't been able to sleep very well lately. Like, it's been like kind of hard for me to either get to sleep or stay asleep. The past couple of days I've slept pretty well, but like I still want to sleep in till like 8, which is like the normal amount of time that a human being sleeps. So to be fair, the sleep schedule I used to have was not normal. I was sleeping like 6 hours a night, and I just kind of ran like that, and I don't know if it's just because like winter's moving in or what it is. It is actually like really beautiful outside today. Like it is the perfect temperature to be outside streaming. But with the colder weather moving in, I think my body's wanting to like sleep a little bit longer. Um, and so it's hard for me to get up at 7, which is what time I need to be up to start a stream at 9:30, like I have been. So streams are probably going to be closer to this time now. Because like I like to wake up, I have to do a video for TikTok that's like, hey, by the way, I'm streaming today, and eat breakfast. I try to like pray and do a little yoga. I failed to do that this morning, but I did get dinner in the crock pot. So I am proud of myself for that. Instead of, doing my prayer and yoga, I did get dinner in the crock pot and I started a load of dishes. So it wasn't all for naught. I'll pray for your sleep. It's hard to function without a good schedule. Seriously, it really is. So, hell yeah, dinner in the crock pot's a win. Indeed it is. Yeah, we're having barbecue chicken and baked potatoes tonight. Go ahead and like the stream, by the way. Liking the stream helps the stream go to other people. I haven't had a lot of people in stream lately. I think it's because I haven't been streaming much lately. And I think people are not seeing the videos where I am like saying, hey, we're streaming today. And YouTube's really bad. Even if you put like all notifications on, YouTube's really bad at giving people the notifications they need to catch the stream. I don't know if it would be helpful for me to stream like longer or like what's going on, but yeah, so we've been on for about 7 minutes. There was something else it does appear that I am going to be taking this position at the Huntington UU. We were thinking about moving our ministry to the Methodist church because that's the church I've been attending, and still just doing like evening ministry, like the Quaker meetings and stuff like that. However, one of my friends is the minister for the local UU, and she hit me up just like a random text message after I had already talked to the Methodist church and been like, hey, can we move the ministry here? And it was kind of like in a like state of contemplation. Like the minister was like, I'm gonna have to talk to the board, and there's gonna be like these like denominational restrictions. And I was like, okay, I will try to work around those, but I was a little nervous because I was like, is a Methodist church that just went through this like massive schism. I don't know if you guys have heard about like the Methodist church schism, but is a Methodist church who's just gone through this massive schism, are they ready for what I do? And I was really, really questioning whether or not that was the case. But I felt like we needed a bigger space. And we were kind of like thinking about moving our ministry to the Methodist church. However, my friend who does morning service at the UU hit me up and was like, look, I've been having health problems. I'm looking to step down. Would you like to just take over this church? Like it would be like your church, your ministry. You'd obviously have to, get to know the congregation and everything, but you would essentially have entirely like complete creative freedom, as long as you try to keep it like interfaith, which I would do anyway. And I kind of went back and forth because it's going to be like a lot of responsibility, because it's not just doing services, it's also like the building, which I would be responsible for. But I have a friend who goes to that church regularly and was like, hey, I attend this church. I would be willing to take on some of this responsibility when it comes to the like financial management and building management end of things. And that gave me kind of the push I needed to take the leap. because if I know I'm going to have that kind of help, then, you know, it's not as overwhelming. And I'm really excited about taking this on. It's still going to be a really small space, which I am still nervous about. We may need to rearrange some things, rearrange some furniture to make sure everybody, you know, gets to like be in that space, especially if we end up with a bigger congregation than we have now, because we are already at a point where I'm like, ooh, when it comes to the space issue. But I'm hoping we can maybe work around this. We can figure something out, you know. Speaking of spiritual matters, have you ever heard of the Wild Goose Festival in North Carolina? Progressive Christian arts, music, interfaith, and justice festival. Look it up and see if it's a fit for you. That sounds really interesting. I've never heard of that before. I'll have to look into it. All right. Let's see. So what I wanted to talk about today is gender affirming care. And the reason I got on this topic today is because I opened my Facebook page, right? I opened my Facebook page today, and I see an advertisement for their men's toupees, right? Their wigs. And I've been getting a lot of those because I am bald, and I have clicked on a couple of them, because I've been like, oh man, these are like really high quality, like you can swim in them kind of wigs, and I had those when I was younger. For those of you unaware, I have an autoimmune disorder called alopecia universalis. I have no body hair at all, pretty much. Obviously, I'm starting to get a bit of facial hair. Actually, testosterone has helped with some of the body hair. I don't have eyebrows still. I don't have eyelashes, but I am getting a bit of facial hair. And so, like, it's not as bad as it was, but I have a lot of problems growing hair on my head. I have since I was like 12 years old. So I am familiar with these kind of wigs. And I thought it was really funny because when you look into these kinds of like men's wigs or like men's toupees, they are called hair systems. And what it is, it's like a like full lace wig, right? It's not just like a lace front. It's like a full lace, like wraparound wig. So you would use adhesive on like the whole thing. And they are, in my opinion, more comfortable than regular wigs, but it might just be because I got really used to them from wearing them when I was like a kid. When I was a kid, Hair Club for Men used to give wigs to the thank you, Heron Plus Cats. I really appreciate your donation. But Hair Club for Men used to give wigs to kids who have alopecia, and I was one of them. So, like, they would just, like, give them out for free. Like, it was, like, part of their, like, you know, program that they had. And you got those all the way up till you were 18. So I'm really familiar with these. But they would call them a hair system. And I'm like, this is just men's gender affirming care. And they call it a hair system because they don't want to call it a wig. Because wigs are associated with women. And so I kind of wanted to talk about gender affirming care because we as trans people, what I don't think cis people realize is that when you normalize gender affirming care for trans people, you also normalize it for cis people, right? Like, you normalize having like cis people also receiving this kind of gender affirming care. And I kind of wanted to talk about what gender affirming care is, because I think a lot of people have this misconception that it is just for trans people. Like, it is just something only trans people need. But really, gender affirming care is anything you do to your body, or like put on your body, like clothing, makeup, anything like that, that helps you feel more at home in your body. That is what gender affirming care is fundamentally. And cis people utilize gender affirming care all the time. Every time a woman puts on makeup, that is gender affirming care. Getting lip fillers, gender affirming care. Men getting hair plugs or wearing a hair system, that is gender affirming care. It is just anything that makes you feel more at home in your body. And the reason I wanted to discuss this is because, like, how do we explain this to cisgender people? Like, how do we explain to cisgender people, like, you also utilize this. You are someone who, like, benefits from this. And by normalizing it with us, we're destigmatizing it for you as well. Because there is sort of a stigma still, even with cis people, about certain types of gender affirming care. Like, obviously things like clothing and makeup, there's not really much of a stigma, at least in, like, the Western world. Even though, like, around makeup, there still seems to be one, like, of, like, women, like, covering up or like, tricking men, which is strange. But there's less of a stigma when cis people do it, obviously. But there still is a stigma. There's a stigma around things like plastic surgery, especially plastic surgery that is not... How do I put this? Not done in a way that kind of caters to the male gaze. I'm thinking of things like people like the what is she called? Like the cat lady, or like the hold on. Or like, obviously she's not cisgender, but like Amanda Lepore, you know, that kind of like heavy plastic surgery is really stigmatized. And where I'm at is, as long as you aren't getting plastic surgery in a way that's like directly affecting your health, like as long as your like nose isn't fucking collapsing or something, I don't care what you do to your body, you know? I think you should be well informed. I think you should be careful. Obviously, going under the knife always has risks. But if anyone wants to get any sort of plastic surgery, like, I don't care. And I think that if we normalize it too, something else I've kind of like noticed is like, the women within like Donald Trump's cabinet, right? They all have really, really heavy work done. And I don't care that they have work done, but I do question the reason they get it done. Because I think that they do it because, let's face it, Republican men are obsessed with like young girls. And they don't want women who look like actual women. I think that they're trying to like constantly make themselves look younger. And I get that that can be a form of gender affirming care, but it seems like you're doing that not to feel more at home in your body, but because the men in your life won't find you attractive unless you change your body. And I don't think that's a good reason to get plastic surgery. Drake's abs. Yes, exactly. Drake's abs are gender affirming care. I I struggle with PCOS and identify as a woman. So me and the razor are very close, lest my beard rival my father's. I tried to explain to my father that this is my daily care, but he is still stubborn. Yeah, like, you know what makes me really sad about the Mar-a-Lago ladies? Like, really and truly very sad, is that if they were not like this, if they were not just overt fascists, you know what I mean? The gays would love them. Like, the gays love, like, mean bimbos with lots of plastic surgery. Like, the gays adore that type of woman. And if they just weren't awful, if they weren't cruel, then they would have such a loving place in the queer community, because the gays love mean plastic women. Like truly. Like, and it just makes me sad for them, because it's like they're chasing this high of being, you know, idealized by these awful men who treat them like garbage, when they could have a community of people who treat them like goddesses, you know? And it makes me really sad that the Mar-a-Lago ladies have given that up in exchange for a lifestyle that is not going to make them happy in the long run, you know? I had something else I wanted to discuss with you guys today. Man, chat is small. It's small. We could just start discussing food again. Because I feel like I was like, oh, I can run an entire stream off of talking about gender affirming care. They value the supremacy lifestyle more than a good, wholesome community, I'm afraid. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, man, like, I feel like, look at Dolly Parton, right? Like, Dolly Parton's had tons of work done, and the gays love her because she is, like, she feels like one of us, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, we can do food convos. We can do food convos. I know that you guys really like the food streams. I'm trying to find, like, what is the best time to do these streams? Because I'm wondering if doing them, because I can't do them in the evenings. My kids are home. You know what I mean? Like, my children are home in the evenings, and if I did a stream in the evenings, it would just be, like, my children coming in and asking for lots of snacks. Like, the whole stream. It would just be like, can I have a snack? Like, what are your favorite snacks, chat? I'm here, work is just busy today, sorry. No, it's fine. I'm just used to having, because it used to be that we would have, like, 30 people in chat, and I like, stopped doing chats, the, streams for a little while, and it just, like, killed my numbers. I enjoy a good morning pop stream when work isn't nuts. Yeah, that's the thing, is, like, I love being the background for y'all's work day. And I'm hoping we can start to get some more people in here. Black licorice? Really? That is something, huh? I've never, I'll be so for real, I have never met someone whose favorite snack is black licorice, unless it is of the Jägermeister variety. Trader Joe's has this peanut butter caramel popcorn that I love. Ooh, that sounds really good. That sounds really, really good. Gummy sharks. Popcorn's amazing. So my grandma, used to be one of those ladies. She would go, I don't know if you've seen them around Christmas time, but she would go get those big tins. They were like Christmas tins of like the different flavors of popcorn. Have y'all ever seen those things? Um, it's like, it's got like cheese popcorn, caramel popcorn, and then sometimes there's just like regular butter popcorn. Last night, part of my snack was feta cheese soaked in balsamic vinegar. Heather really likes those really bold, like, what would you call those kinds of flavors, right? Like the, like balsamic vinegar and olives, and certain types of pickles. What category would you call like that flavor palette? I can't have those tins. They don't survive the day. Yeah, my grandma used to buy those all the time when I was a kid. And so we'd always have these big giant tins of popcorn, especially around the holidays. Yeah, Heather, and like mushrooms and things. I like, they're like kind of like earthy, like bold, bitter flavors. And Heather just loves that stuff. Truffles. Heather loves truffles. Yes. Truffles are expensive though. Umami flavors. Yeah. I'm um I'm a sweet and salty kind of guy. That's usually what I tend to go for. I love like chocolate covered pretzels. Um and any sort of cookie that has like a salty element to it, like if there's a cookie that has like pretzels inside of it, or like sea salt caramel, something like that. I'm really really fond of all of that. Um One of my favorite snacks, I haven't actually had it in a while, because it's expensive to buy now. I need to learn how to make it. Pimento cheese. Pimento cheese is one of my all-time favorite snacks. One of my favorite breakfasts actually is a pimento cheese bagel. Um, so I love it on pretzels. I love it on crackers. Like, I fucking love pimento cheese. Um, what else? What other snacks do I gravitate towards, Heather? I don't even know. Like, cookies are a big one for me, unfortunately. I really can't afford to be eating cookies the way I do, like, usually do, though. Um, I do like crunchy snacks. Yeah, that tends to be my go-to. I like crunch in my snacks. Pimento cheese is, like, top tier. Okay, so another snack that I've discovered recently I really love. So, y'all like Aldi? Y'all like going to Aldi? Y'all know, if y'all like going to Aldi, you know that Aldi has the best cheese selection. Okay, like sometimes the fancy Krogers will have good cheese selections, but Aldi's is really top tier when it comes to um. Remind me next Girl Scout cookie season to send the fam a cookie care package. I fucking love Girl Scout cookies. I fucking love Girl Scout cookies so much. My favorites, I love Thin Mints. I don't think Heather likes Thin Mints. You don't like Thin Mints, do you, Heather? Am I wrong? Um, and then I like the Caramel Delights and the Tagalongs. I am wrong? Okay. Heather does like Thin Mints. Who is it that doesn't like Thin Mints? Maybe it's Bradley that doesn't like Thin Mints. I know there's somebody who doesn't like Thin Mints in this house. Oh, but the snack that I recently discovered I really like. Um, I love, like, I'll take either like a cracker or a croissant, right? And I'll put some of that like sharp cheddar from the Aldi in it. Um, and then like a blueberry jam on top of that. Like, that is one of my, it's like top tier. We got a jam. There's a place here called the Wild Ramp, and it's like local foods by like local farmers, and like, what would you call people who make like jarred, like artisans? Um, and they have a like blueberry jam that is like next level. It's so good. Um, Man, let me tell you, that stuff from like the farmers markets, it just tastes better. The like garden vegetables, the jams and jellies that are like homemade, they just taste better. They just taste better. I used to make my own jam and jellies. I miss having a big kitchen. Yeah, I need to like, so here's the thing. I want to make more things like that. And really, because I used to make bread, right? I haven't made as much bread, mostly because it's been summer, and I don't want to like run the oven for as long as it takes to make bread when it's 100 degrees outside. You know what I mean? Um, I would like to get back into making bread. I love We have like a little community here that really likes making stuff like that. And I think it's like such a deep part of Appalachian culture, like the food here and kind of making things yourself. And I'd like to get back into bread making, and really perfect my recipes. Heather's a strawberry and rhubarb person. Are you still getting ads for strawberry and rhubarb stuff? For so long, Heather just kept getting ads for various like strawberry rhubarb recipes, like all sorts of them. Like what was it? Like strawberry rhubarb bars, strawberry rhubarb jam. I got a $5 bread maker at a thrift, and it was life changing. So we have one of those big cast iron Dutch ovens, and that's usually what I make my bread in. And my bread turns out pretty good. I made a ramp bread last year, because Wild Ramp also has ramp seasoning. It's like kind of like the dried herbs that you get like at the grocery store, but it's made with ramps. Are y'all familiar with what ramps are? Ramps are a plant that grows here in Appalachia. They're native to this area. And they taste like a mix between garlic and onion. Kind of like, but not like an onion, like a yellow onion, more like a green onion. So they're more like a cross between like a green onion or like chives and garlic. And it makes an excellent seasoning. And so I had made a bread last year with the ramp seasoning. Oh my man, it was really good. Really, really good. We have a ramp festival here actually every year. And it's called Stink Fest. And we end up, sorry, my brain just went blank. And like every year we go get stuff from Ramp Fest. They have like plates of like different ramp meals, like different meals that are created with ramps. They usually have ramparoni rolls, which are like pepperoni rolls with ramps in them. Miles loves those things. So what else is at the Wild Ramp that we really like? I know that there's a lot of stuff. There's the Wild Ramp, and then there's if you want like jarred goods and like fudge and stuff too. There's also the what the hell is Peddler's Mall? The Peddler's Mall has that kind of stuff. The Peddler's Mall is such a weird liminal space. Um, it is like, it's a place where people can kind of, I don't know, it has like, how would you explain the Peddler's Mall? The monk bread. Oh my god. So we have monks here. Um, we have monks. They are like Orthodox monks, and they still keep a lot of the traditions of like medieval, like Orthodox monks. And part of that is like making different like wares to sell. So they make bread and they have coffee. Um, like they roast their own coffee, and so the monk coffee is incredibly good. It is very strong. I don't know if I've ever had coffee that was as strong as the monk coffee. The monk coffee is very strong. um and then they make like, not just, they make like breads, like regular breads, but they also make like quick breads. And they have like blueberry lemon breads and stuff like that, and they're so good. Holy Cross Monastery, yep. See, that's what I really love about um about this area, is that there's still, a lot of people are like, oh, white people have no culture. um and that's true, I would say, in terms of like talking about like the concept of whiteness, and what whiteness does. But there are individual groups of primarily white people that do have culture. Um, and I would say that Appalachia is definitely one of them. Cajuns are another group that definitely have their own culture going on. Um, but like, so much of this area has maintained a lot of its cultural roots. And so we have like bread that's made by like local monks. We have, these little festivals that celebrate like these locally grown plants. Actually, at the blues festival we went to the other day, there was a guy who was like, he sounded exactly, I'm not kidding, guys, he sounded exactly like Dale Gribble, and he was talking for like a half hour on stage at this blues festival about native plants and their uses. And you just get that kind of stuff around here. Like, it just happens all the time. Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, what really bothers me too is that MAGA is really responsible for a lot of culture death here in Appalachia. A lot of like these cultural practices and traditions, like, what's so crazy is they're like, we want to keep our culture, we're protecting the culture. No, they're not. They're destroying the culture that's here. Like, it's a constant destruction of Appalachian culture that has existed for so long. For example, like, we have a very strong labor history. MAGA destroys that. The like cultural food practices and traditions, and dances, and all these like various things that make up Appalachian culture are being actively squashed out by MAGA. And what these people actually mean when they talk about like protecting and preserving culture isn't protecting and preserving Appalachian culture at all. It's just the desire to be racist. Like, that's all it means. Like, they just want to be racist, and they will destroy Appalachian culture in order to keep that particular element. Um and it's so very, very frustrating. I have been so deeply disappointed by so many of my fellow Appalachians, because so many of us are willing to give up these aspects of our culture in exchange for like Nothing, really, nothing. Like, we're giving it up for like this false promise of prosperity that's never going to come, because it never has. Every time this happens, I call it the Appalachian curse, right? Which is that, like, a rich man comes into town and he makes these big promises of how, you know, the workers here are going to be treated right, and everybody's going to make a lot of money, everybody's going to get rich, and then they just exploit us for our labor, and we fall further and further into economic despair. And once our resources are completely dried up, they just move along. And like, this has happened so many times, and it is so incredibly frustrating, because the way when these labor unions do form, when these coalitions do form, almost always what ends up breaking them is racism. These companies will use racism to break up these coalitions. They'll say, "Oh, you know, those Chinese rail workers, they're taking your jobs. They're the reason you can't get ahead. Oh, you know, it's black people's fault. They're the reason you can't get ahead." And every single time, then that solidarity gets broken, and there is it ends up screwing us in the long run. Preach it. They don't care to remember our labor struggles or issues because they think we're ignorant mountain and foothill people. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, so much labor history was created by Appalachians, and the way that I hear so many, like, blue state or city leftists and liberals talk about this area, they seem to think that it operates in a very similar way to their suburbs. That there isn't a very real culture here, that is actively being squashed out by the MAGA movement. Like, they're just like, "Oh, these are ignorant hill people." And like, I would really like it if, like, so many of my fellow Appalachians would stop proving them right, in terms of, like, making sure that the worst people of all time stay in power. Like, it's like we never learn our lesson. Like, and I don't know if it's just because, like, so much propaganda has been pushed into this area about, and we just aren't taught this kind of history. We aren't taught about things like Blair Mountain. Uh, I know that, like, in the rest of the country, Blair Mountain doesn't really get talked about. Like, most people have never heard of it. And, like, it's nuts to me, because it's like, there's so much culture, there's so much history when it comes to the people here, and it's a complicated history, but it is a history and it is a culture, and it's a culture that's, like, being actively destroyed in the same way MAGA destroys culture in other places. Because MAGA is, like, fundamentally a movement around, like, the concept of whiteness. Like, it's not a people's movement. It's not a, you know, movement that preserves culture or preserves tradition. It actively destroys it. Yeah, I didn't learn about it until I was an adult either. Now, I knew some of the coal history, from, like, because I grew up in a town. My town wasn't a coal town, but I grew up in a county, and the next town over was a coal town. It was this little place called Shawnee. It's still technically there. It is mostly a ghost town at this point. there are like less than 200 people living in it. Um, it is mostly abandoned. um, and that town was a coal town, and they still had like statues up, like coal miner statues. They still had monuments to this kind of like labor history. So I grew up kind of just with that around me. So I did have um some knowledge of this kind of labor history growing up. And I also was very aware of factory shutdowns as I was growing up, like rural factory shutdowns. And I watched like entire thriving towns or small cities just rot. And so quickly too, because none of the people there could find work. Um, and then opioids got like absolutely flooded into this area, and I just watched decay. Honestly, watching that decay is the thing that radicalized me, right? Like watching the like we talk a lot about like urban decay, right? We don't talk as much about rural decay. And rural decay, like watching entire towns just fall to pieces. And stop having access to resources and stop having access to work. That is enough to make you go, okay, the system's fundamentally fucked. Like something here is fucked. And had I not been queer, right, and ended up going down this like obviously very left-leaning pipeline, I could easily have seen myself being radicalized in a different direction. But I was queer. My grandmother was biracial. And so I grew up, and I was raised by my grandmother. So I grew up very knowledgeable about racism, very knowledgeable about homophobia. And because of those things, you know, I ended up left wing. A lot of the people like I went to high school with ended up falling down right-wing pipelines because they were radicalized by the same things, but they didn't have any sort of knowledge of like intersectionality. I actually have one of my, it was like our like Cookie Monster pajama pants girl, and it makes me so sad. But she was at fucking Jan 6th. Like our Cookie Monster pajama pants girl was at Jan 6th. And so I saw a lot of the people I grew up with fall into that trap. On the subject of Blair Mountain, you not finding out about Blair Mountain until you were an adult, even though like you were in Ohio and West Virginia's right there. Blair Mountain has been such a fucking cover-up job. Like, people do not, like, I remember the other day, they were talking about, it was some newscaster was talking about, like, what's happening with Donald Trump with the military being, like, on American soil, like, deployed against, like, American citizens. Like, that hasn't happened since, like, the late 1700s, something like that. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, Blair Mountain happened, obviously. There have been, like, we had Standing Rock, like, not that long ago, where the American military was deployed. Like, this happens all the fucking time. What are you talking about? Like, this is just the newest iteration of it. Bernie Sanders only learned about Blair Mountain when he visited here a couple of weeks ago. He toured the West Virginia Mine Wars Museum and was shocked. Yeah, Bernie Sanders just found out about Blair Mountain. Like, this is a piece of history that's just been lost to time for so many people. And I think that, you know, when it comes to leftists in cities, It's a piece of history that people really like to overlook, especially because of the Appalachian Curse. The fact that, like, whenever these movements form, they're usually broken up due to fucking racism. And we keep falling for these fucking rich guys who promise us the world and then exploit the shit out of us. And it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. But they always do such a good cover-up job of that history. Man, we really need to invest more in education in this country. We really fucking do. Like, it is such a necessity that we invest more in education in this country. I want to go to the Mine Wars Museum so bad, but I live on the other side of the country now. It is a very cute little museum. It is very small. I will tell you that it's very much one of those little tiny kind of like hometown museums that are run by people who are very, very passionate. By the way, if you have one of those in your town, look and see if you have one of those in your town. And, oh no. I really hope that I'm still connected to the internet. Am I still connected to the internet, guys? Sorry, my internet just like, okay. For my laptop, my internet just like crashed, so I was making sure that the stream didn't crash too. By the way, like the stream if you haven't already. What was I talking about now? I had to deal with a technical issue. Sponsors calling, so I gotta go, but I wish you and Heather a great day. I hope to catch you again soon. All right, see you later. I hope you have a good day. I love little museums. They're so cute. Yeah, no, if you have like a little museum near you, I highly recommend like looking up and seeing if you have one and going and visiting it. Number one, you're gonna learn so much about your area because it is always run by like two autistic people who just have like a very specific special interest and really want to tell you about it. They care about this so much that they want to create a whole museum about it, and they want people to come and visit that museum and talk to them about their special interest. So I highly recommend going to visit these little museums and just enjoying them and meeting people, the people who work at them, and meeting the other people who visit them. Because you will meet a lot of good people if you do that. Like a great deal of good people if you do that. Because they're people who care a lot about preserving culture. Like actually care about preserving culture, you know, not just like pseudo care about preserving culture like we talked about earlier. I'm pretty sure there's a train one nearby. I swear in every state there's at least one train museum because there's one guy. There's always one guy who is deeply autistic and wants a train museum in their town, and he's gonna make that train museum. We actually had, okay, so I grew up in southeastern Ohio. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Ohio area, but there is a town, I think it's Dresden. Let me see. Give me a second. What is that guy's name? The Warther Museum. Okay? It's called the Warther Museum. It's in Dover, Ohio. Okay? And this man he was a whittler, right? Like he would whittle with a knife. And he would create some of the most beautiful, like pieces of art you've ever seen. One of his favorite things to do was whittle trains. So there were all of these train sets that he made out of wood and bone. And they, like hundreds of trains. And they would have every single little piece just meticulously put together. And he also made knives. That was another thing that he made. Um, and he would make little knives. He would make little pliers. He had a way to make pliers that only took 6 cuts on like a little piece of wood. And that was like what he was most famous for. But I highly recommend, if you ever get the opportunity, to go out there and check out that museum. It's awesome. I went there a ton when I was a kid, and he had a wife who was, I'm like as autistic as him, and her thing was buttons. And she would make these elaborate, beautiful art pieces made out of buttons. She did the entire interior of a shed that was like a button mosaic. And that was like her workshop where she would make her button her button art pieces. I wonder, can I send? No, I can't. I wish I could send you some pictures, but it's called, I'll send you the link to the museum. But like, I love this museum too because it shows like a different, like we talk a lot about art in terms of like paintings, movies, music, and the and we usually talk about it, I feel like, in terms of like these very famous artists who, you know, created art for a museum setting, right? Or for, you know, entertainment purposes. But there are all these like folk artists, and I feel like folk art doesn't get as much respect. Like things like whittling and quilting and chainsaw art and things like that don't get the kind of prestige that like someone making a painting in a gallery would get. But it is, so much of this is so painstakingly made, and it takes so long. And I wish there was more respect put on folk art's name, okay? I really do. Plus, I think it's a lot of the time when it comes to this stuff, it's made by like older people or by women when it comes to folk art. And so there's not as much emphasis placed on it. Now, obviously, Ernest Werther was a man, but like, if you look at that link, take a look at those trains. I mean, they're incredible. And I'm pretty sure he even, if I remember correctly, made like little figurines that went in the trains, like little train operators. And they would be like, the insides of the trains would have like little seats and everything. Like, they were painstakingly crafted. Painstakingly crafted. And that kind of art just doesn't get the respect it deserves. I remember, because I think when I was a kid, I don't remember, hold on. Like, Ernest Werther doesn't even have like a does he have a Wikipedia page? He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, I don't think. Like, but I think it was either, hold on. We're going on a little tangent here. We're going on an adventure. So it would have been his son. When I was growing up, Ernest Werther's son still whittled in the museum because he had taken over a lot of his father's work. And um, he would create things for like all the little kids that came and visited the museum. Like just little simple like things, little pliers or little like little figurines, and he would make those for all the little kids that came. I haven't been to a local museum, only ones in big cities. I should look into that. You absolutely should, because so much of our history is in these little tiny itty bitty museums that are like in nowhere towns. Like, so much history is held in them, and it's just like one guy who is just dead set on preserving it. Like, just dead set on preserving it. And so much history is preserved that way. There was a woman, this isn't a museum, but there was a woman who for years she was worried about history being destroyed. And so she would just all day, every day, anytime there was like a political event, she would tape, she would create videotapes of all of these different broadcasts, and she had hundreds of them, hundreds of videotapes that she had created. And when she passed away, they were donated to like different archival societies who then digitized it for her. Like, and so we have so much history because this one woman sat there every day and was like constantly recording videotapes. And I wish people would remember that history gets preserved because people care. People care so much that they want to keep it intact. And unfortunately, the history that really needs preserving is history that we are taught not to care about. Things like Blair Mountain, things like folk art, things that really keep our like culture cohesive. This happens in the queer community all the time too. Oh, thank you so much, Donnie. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the donation. Archives are so important. Like, that's the thing. I was actually like I was thinking about queer history this morning because I got one of those like Hays Codes kids up in my, I can't even really call them a Hays Code kid because they were fucking 34 years old. They should know better. But you know, the Kink at Pride stuff. And the reason we have these discourses is because our history didn't get preserved. Either because there was an active attempt made to wipe it all out by some sort of power that be, or you know, a lot of people just died during the AIDS epidemic, or queer people got murdered, or killed themselves. And so that history was not preserved in a meaningful way. And these conversations that we already done had just have to keep being had then. Hays Code. It's Hayes, the Hays Code. Okay, let's talk about the Hays Code. Hell yeah, we'll talk about this little piece of history because this is really interesting. All right, I want to make sure that I get all of my info right. So I'm going to look it up, okay? We're gonna check out the Britannica. Um, so, the Hays Code was a set of guidelines self-imposed by Hollywood studios regulating the moral content of films produced from 1934 to 1968. So, um, the Hays Code made it so that certain things were not allowed to be filmed and produced in media that would be in studios. Um, the major things are like violence, criminality, substance use, promiscuity, and homosexuality. So this is why we have a lot of queer-coded villains, because if you wanted a lot of queer people worked in Hollywood. A lot of queer people have always worked in Hollywood, right? And so there was a desire to create some level of queer representation within media. And so what would happen is, but because of the Hays Code, if there was queer representation in media, that person had to be a villain. There was no other option. They had to be a villain, and they had to be punished by the end. And so what we ended up with was all of these queer-coded villains. And once that started happening, then people started seeing queer coding as an easy way to kind of like a visual medium through which to show that someone is a villain. So even once the Hays Code was disbanded in the 60s, that kind of queer coding of villainy persisted past that, because people had already kind of associated these kinds of mannerisms with villainy itself. So the Hays Code kids, it is a way to kind of describe this younger generation of very prudish and prudish really is the best word. These very prudish young queer people, prudish young people who feel some sort of deep discomfort with anything involving sex, sexuality, violence, promiscuity, just any sort of deviant kind of thing. And we are seeing a lot of these within queer culture. The very like kink shouldn't be a lot of pride kind of discourse that we have every year. And it's because a lot of this history hasn't been preserved, and the cultural element of sexuality within queer culture has not been well preserved, and the importance of that has not been well preserved. And so people have started calling these young people the Hays Code, the Puritans, yeah, the Hays Code kids. These kids who, if it was left up to them, would reinstate the Hays Code. The strange thing, though, about the Hays Code kids is that when it comes to queer representation, they don't, obviously, oh my god, hold on, I need to show you guys something. Look, do you see that baby deer? There's a little tiny baby deer in the yard across the street. It can barely even walk. Can you see it? Is it even on the thing? Hold on. Do you see it up there? It's little teeny tiny. Up by the bushes. Right there. See him? Oh, he's so cute. Hello, baby. Where's your mama? Where's your mama? Huh? Sweet baby. All right. Sorry. Got distracted by the baby deer. It's so little. That is... Oh, we have another friend. Oh, he's gone. It was a little hummingbird that came up to nibble on our flowers. I love the fact that I live in a place where just like wildlife comes and chills, you know? Like it just comes over and chills in our general vicinity. The whole queer Puritan thing is a big part of why I often say being a leftist is Orthodox Judaism all over again. I feel bait and switch. Yeah. So, it's there is a certain amount of queer discourse that I'm like, man, am I back in like conservative church again? Like, am I back in the conservative church? I also live in a place with wildlife, but the wildlife is very hostile and looks like Pokemon on steroids. We have some hostile wildlife here. We definitely have bears. Now I've never seen one of those anywhere near our house. There was a bear that like chilled out over in like over by the mega church for a little while. There's a mega church not too far from here. And there was a bear and a baby bear that was over there. But we have that, and we do have mountain lions. I've never seen one out here of those either. That's something I hate about the city, the lack of critters. Yeah, there are some cities that have a critter population. Like Denver. When I went to Denver, I was startled by the amount of bunnies. There's just bunnies everywhere in Denver. There's so many bunnies. But for the most part, yeah, in cities there's not as much wildlife. We have some raccoons that that hang out around the house. There was one night, so I have a couple raccoon stories about this house. There was one night that I went down to get a glass of water in like the middle of the night, and I look over at our sliding glass door, and there's just a raccoon with like his nose like planted against the sliding glass door, just staring at me, and it scared the shit out of me. And then there was two raccoons that Heather had left because she had planted some sunflowers, and they dug up all of our sunflower seeds and part of our garden to get the little seeds. But she had left a bag of sunflower seeds out there, and they got into a big old fight over those sunflower seeds out in our yard. They were fighting over them things. So we definitely have those. We have groundhogs that we see around. I haven't seen any possums this year, which is really surprising. I haven't seen a single possum. I haven't even seen them really as like roadkill, which you usually do. So I don't know where our possums are at, but I'm concerned about our lack of possums this year. Oh, we don't have mountain lions here? So where I grew up, we had mountain lions. Apparently they're not in this area. I have seen some bunnies around here. I've seen some little bunnies. Groundhogs are pretty popular. They like to hang out. I love groundhogs too. They're so fat. They're so fat. They almost look like tribbles. Like they're just furry and they hop when they when they run. Have y'all ever seen a groundhog run? They're so funny because they just look like a hopping fur ball. I'm in Florida. I'm not in Orlando, but Orlando has wild shit going on. Satan painted over the street memorial for... I saw that. I saw where he painted over the street memorial for Pulse. I love it when they stand up on their hind legs and stand still as a statue. Okay, so I have a funny groundhog story from my like old apartment back in Ohio. I had a roommate who loved plants, and she had an Aztec dream herb. And Aztec dream herbs have a mild psychedelic effect. And one day a groundhog got up on our porch and ate the Aztec dream herb. And we go out on our porch, and I thought that the groundhog was dead, because he was just so still. And I like saw this groundhog, and he was a very unique groundhog. He had like a little white tuft of fur on like the back of his neck. And I saw this groundhog, and I realized he's alive. He had just eaten the Aztec dream herb, and he was tripping balls on my porch. And so we just sat there and took care of him because he had gotten himself really high. And then I wanted to get very high, and I had taken some LSD and gone out into the woods by the house, by our apartment. Because I lived in an apartment, it was kind of like up on a hill, like tucked into the mountain. So there was like wooded areas around it. And I went out into like the wooded area, and that like groundhog came up to me and sat next to me while I was tripping. And we just like took care of each other and communing with nature, man. Communing with nature. The apartments I used to live in had feral cats and raccoons that would share the dumpster. We definitely have a lot of feral cats here. That's a huge thing, is that there's just a ton of feral cats. Not as many feral dogs. I saw when I've like been out in like Albuquerque and stuff, there's a lot of like feral dogs out there. The desert dogs, yep. It wasn't a raccoon, it was a groundhog. I didn't I wasn't taking care of a raccoon. It was a groundhog. And it was so funny because he was so high, and he just curled up in a ball. He was like a little ball, a groundhog ball on our porch. I love groundhogs, man. They're so funny. And at that apartment, we had like a whole family of groundhogs. And my roommate named them all Steve. He named all the groundhogs Steve. So we had a whole family, because it was like a big groundhog and then like a bunch of little groundhogs. Like a bunch of little baby groundhogs. And they would all be out there hopping. The other thing, okay, so while we're on the subject of history and wildlife and plant life and culture and all of that, the other thing I highly recommend visiting, not just little museums, little festivals, county fairs, things like that. You will find so much culture. Something Heather and I realized is how much the cuisine varies from like county fair to county fair, because like we had certain things. I grew up in southeastern Ohio, which is not that far from here. Ohio is literally across the bridge. And so where I grew up, we had but I grew up like right on the border of Appalachia and the Midwest. God damn it. Gary is out there doing something again. What are you doing? Can you even hear me with whatever is going on over there? I swear, Gary is always making some sort of loud mechanical noise all day and all night. And I can't tell what it is this time. Is that a fucking leaf blower? It's a fucking leaf blower. There ain't even any leaves on the ground. Okay. All hours of the fucking day. And it's so hard to film out here anymore because it's like constant. But where I grew up, we had like certain things that were like staples of the county fair. And Heather didn't grow up with those things. Like because I grew up right on the border of Appalachia and the Midwest. So those two cultural like cuisines would like often like intermingle. And I grew up with things like shredded chicken sandwiches. Y'all ever heard of a shredded chicken sandwich? It's not a barbecue chicken. It's a shredded chicken sandwich. Heather thinks they sound disgusting. But I'll read the recipe. We'll read the recipe for shredded chicken sandwich. All right? We're going to look it up. You make them in the crock pot. All right. All right. It's like a gravy chicken, right? It is 2 pounds of chicken breast, 2 teaspoons each of pepper, paprika, and garlic powder, a teaspoon of oregano, and a teaspoon of thyme, 10-ounce can of cream of chicken soup, a half cup of chicken broth, 1 tablespoon of flour, and 1 cup of milk. And you just throw all of that shit into a crock pot, and you can eat it in a sandwich. You can eat it over mashed potatoes and gravy. You can eat it over biscuits. And that was like a staple of my childhood growing up. A fucking staple. And Heather thinks it sounds disgusting, which is why I've never made it. Does everyone have the corn on the cob dipped in a giant vat of melted butter? No, but that sounds delicious. But the sandwich would be soggy, right? No. It's like, have you ever had like a shredded barbecue chicken sandwich? Or like a beef barbecue? It's like that. It has like that same consistency. Okay, yeah, okay, it's a little soggy, but it's like not any more soggy than like a like beef barbecue. Um, I fucking love shredded chicken, man. I fucking love it. It's so fucking good. And I miss it so much. I'm gonna have to make it one day, honey. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to make it one day. One of these days, I'm gonna have to make shredded chicken. I'm sure Bradley would love it because he grew up with it too. It's so good over biscuits too. And it like with the fall breeze that I just got hit with like just now, it makes me want that shredded chicken sandwich even more because it was like a staple of the county fair. So like you could always get them at the county fair, and like I'm smelling like the autumn breeze and I'm like, I want a shredded chicken. I will post the recipe here. I'm gonna give you all the recipe. Posting it in the chat. That way y'all can make your own shredded chicken. It's fucking delicious. Like I said, highly recommend it. You can put it on a bun. You can put it over mashed potatoes. But I prefer it. My favorite way to eat it is over biscuits. I think it's best over biscuits. Another thing I grew up with was a Texas tenderloin, which my wife also thinks is an abomination, and I will never get to eat in my house. I will have to just go to Ohio and get one myself. But so a Texas tenderloin is a tenderloin, a pork tenderloin, and it gets smashed. It's kind of like a schnitzel, okay? That's the closest thing I could compare it to. It is a gigantic schnitzel, and it is served over, it is served on a regular sized bun. Now, the one that is in this picture for this recipe is not the proper size of a proper Texas tenderloin. A proper Texas tenderloin is this big, okay? And it is on a bun that is this big, all right? Does it make sense? No. Is it delicious? Yes. And I love me a good fucking Texas tenderloin. But those were also like a staple of county fairs and like mom and pop diners. Like there was almost always a Texas tenderloin at the mom and pop diner. And those shits are so good. Oh my God. Damn, the bread to meat ratio is questionable, but I'll have to try it. It's so good. So what a lot of people would do is they'd either like fold the meat into the sandwich, or you can just eat around until you get to the bun. Like either one is reasonable. We also had, I don't know if y'all had these, but these gigantic buckets. I mean, they were buckets. And they would be like this, of French fries. And there would be a big pump, big pumps outside of the food truck stand of ketchup and malt vinegar. And you could get like fresh cut fucking fries in a bucket. And it was like $5. It was awesome. The fair fries, man, they're so good. They're so good. So we also had, and this was a very like specific to my area thing, right? Because like I said, I grew up right on the border of Appalachia and the Midwest. So this town, the nearest town was technically in the Midwest, right? And so there was a pumpkin festival that they had every year, and they would create something called a pumpkin burger. My wife also thinks this is an abomination. They are delicious. I don't care what anybody says. And the pumpkin burger was kind of like a sloppy Joe, but the sauce wasn't a tomato-based sauce. It was a pumpkin-based sauce. I'm going to find a pumpkin burger recipe. All right. This is a pumpkin burger. They are fucking awesome. Toaststones? No, I've never had those before. I don't know what those are. What are they? Could you send these recipes on the Discord too? Yeah, I could probably do that. I'll have to do it later because I have to use my phone to stream, but malt vinegar on fries is so fucking good. I'm trying to think of some of the other... Oh, a wet burrito. Heather's never heard of a wet burrito. I'm sure you guys have never heard of a wet burrito either. And it is a burrito, okay? This is technically a burrito. We are doing a community cookbook. I should add some of this stuff to the community cookbook. I'll send it to Elliot. So a wet burrito is a staple of the southeastern Ohio fair food scene. And what it is, it's a regular burrito, but it is just sloppy as fuck. Like, that shit has to stay in the foil or you're gonna have, like, a problem, okay? You will be covered in wet burrito by the end of the wet burrito, okay? And they are... And the proper way to say it is wet burrito. Now, it is spelled burrito on the sign. The proper way to refer to it is wet burrito. Toaststones is a fried green plantain. It's a plantain savory. Oh, man, I love plantains. We had a Jamaican restaurant open up here in town very recently, and they make such good plantains. Like, unbelievably. Some of the best plantains I've ever had. So good. They have snack plates, and the snack plates are like $12, which is pretty fucking decent for a plate of Jamaican food. And they're like big, they're sizable. And it's served with like rice and like one side. And I got the plantains, and they were like top-notch next level. Like, I love me some plantains. What kind of fair food do y'all have here, Heather? Now, Jamaicans usually use sweet plantains. These are savory green plantains. I don't know if I've ever actually had green plantains. That might be... I might have to give it a shot. I've never had the green ones. All right, though. Of course, now we're getting people in here. When I'm like an hour and a half into the into the stream. But I am gonna have to probably end the chat soon. I'm sorry, guys. Just like normal stuff. Corn dogs, nachos, fries. Yeah, see, y'all had just like boring fair food. We had like unique dishes. We had unique cultural dishes that apparently Heather thinks are all abominations. Funnel cakes. Yeah, funnel cakes were a staple of ours, and elephant ears too. And of course you had like your mozzarella cheese sticks, all your deep fried stuff. I don't know did y'all have the fried vegetables? Like, it was like literally a package of different vegetables. It was like broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, and those shits got dipped in like what's the breading that they use at like Chinese food restaurants? That kind of breading. Oh, it's right on the tip of my tongue and I can't remember it. But it's that real kind of like crunchy, fluffy breading that they use on like sweet and sour chicken. They would dip all these vegetables in that and then just throw them shits in a deep fryer. And oh my God, they were so good. Tempura. There we go. Tempura. Yeah, they would just like dip all of these vegetables in tempura and then just throw them shits in the deep fryer. And it would become one vegetable mass, you know, kind of like a funnel cake. But God, they were good. They were so fucking good. All right, though, guys. I am going to have to pack it in, unfortunately. I do have some other content to make today, but I'm going to be streaming more often. I'm going to try to stream at least 2 days a week. Oh, there's another deer over there. Deer on the road. You want to see one more critter before we head out? A car came, so the deer ran away. But I have to drop before everybody leaves. I gotta drop my this is my Cash App and Venmo, if you guys are interested in that. And I can always use tips, guys. It's especially towards the end of the month. Things get real rough because I get paid on the 5th and the 15th. And my paycheck on the 15th is only ever like $150 tops. Okay? Because that's the TikTok paycheck that comes in. Now, if I can reach $100 by a certain amount of time on YouTube, I can get a paycheck from YouTube as well, which is another $100. But I have to reach $100 in like YouTube stuff, and I don't get it until the next month. Like TikTok and YouTube, the way it works is like, okay, so right now I'm getting TikTok pay for the month of August. I won't receive the pay from TikTok until September 15th. And so anything that I get in terms of payments for this month on YouTube, I won't receive until the end of September. And only if I reach $100, which means I'm probably not going to get paid until November from YouTube. So tips are, oh, sorry, I kicked my stand. So tips are always helpful. I need to read donos. Give me a second. Time to read donos. Where is my... No. Audience. All right. A very special thank you to Alex DeLong, Howie the Duck, Debbie Williams, Greg Norwood, Rosie, Jennifer Davidson, Margaret Capehart, Ariana, Emma Price, Lauren O'Connor, sorry, I wanted to make sure, Caitlin, Nathan, Morgan Westerin, Eleanor Bucksbaum, Jay Winia, Morgan May, Taylor Condra, River Johnson, Angelini Pellegrini, Faith Benamy, Kristen McSorley, Jacqueline Gordon, Devin Watson, Val Smith, Post-Punk Pastor, Pauline Gibson, Lucas Kempe Cook, and John Borg. Thank you guys so much for supporting me on Patreon. I really, really appreciate it. Patreon really is one of the better places to follow me if you're looking to support this channel, because it gives me a solid amount that I know I'm going to be getting every month. Now, Patreon does take a fucking sizable chunk, but it's better than, like, I like having a stable paycheck, you know, and Patreon does provide that. So, yeah, consider becoming a member of my Patreon. You can also become a member of my Substack. That is another platform I am now on. Everything can be found in the link tree that is available on my TikTok page. So, yeah, I don't know if there's any more updates I have for you guys right now, but thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for checking into my stream. Like I said, I'm going to try to do streams more often because I actually do get decent stream revenue, especially from ads, because they're longer. My streams are longer, and so I collect ad revenue, and I also have super chats, which makes things a lot, like, pretty helpful for people. But as always, drink a water, eat a food, be kind to yourself, to your neighbor, and to the earth. Thank you guys so much for everything you do. I hope you have a wonderful day, and God bless.